With the 2020 election now just a few days away, we're hearing about election fraud, foreign meddling, endless contested voting results, even the presidential winner being decided by possibly the House of Representatives or even the Supreme Court. With the protests we've seen this year, the Supreme Court nominee controversy, and now the upcoming dramatic presidential election, many believe the scenario is right for widespread civil unrest. I hope I'm wrong. In this video, I'll look at aspects of the upcoming election and why it may be unlike any other election we've seen. When you look at the presidential race between incumbent Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Joe Biden, two factors stand out. First, many people never accepted the 2016 election of Donald Trump because some say there was foreign collusion. This makes President Trump's election, in some minds, completely illegitimate. There's so much hatred for Donald Trump that many liberals will never stop fighting him. Secondly, the COVID-19 pandemic has radically changed how this election will be operated. Scares about long lines and health effects at the polling locations have driven more absentee and mail-in voting ballots than in any other election. Some say this makes the likelihood of widespread voter fraud very likely, although many on the other side say that belief is completely baseless. Urgent. It was announced on Friday, October 2nd, 2020, that President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump had both tested positive for COVID-19, forcing the two to a 14-day quarantine at the White House and a shutting down for the most part of his presidential campaign. And what about those mail-in ballots? There is not a national standard for mail-in procedures, allowing every state to make their own rules. States actually use two types of mail-in ballots: universal vote by mail, where ballots are mailed to all voters, and absentee ballots, where the voter writes, calls, or goes online to request a ballot because they're sick or plan on being out of state on Election Day. Some states don't require any excuse for not voting on Election Day. The Brennan Center for Justice at New York University found recently that there's no evidence that mail balloting increases fraud. This is because there are several safeguards used to make it difficult to impersonate voters or steal ballots. Some states mail ballots out only to addresses found on voter registration rolls, require matching signatures to verify the signature of the voter. Still, we've always heard about non-cleaned-up voter registration rolls that include thousands of dead people. And the problem of ballot harvesting, where volunteers and campaign workers in some states can legally go directly to the houses of voters, even nursing homes, collect the completed ballots and drop them off en masse to polling places or election offices. In states without restrictions on who can return a ballot on someone else's behalf, a third party could tamper with or discard the ballots. Election officials sending out mail-in ballots have another challenge in 2020. Americans move between elections, normally about 10% each year. Millions have moved to escape coronavirus. Haphazardly mailing a ballot to everyone on the voter rolls without receiving requests may disenfranchise many thousands of people who no longer live where they're registered. Election offices also have the difficult task of determining when the mail-in ballots have to be received. Most states say these ballots must be in the hands of officials by the time the polls close. But a few states like Pennsylvania and Nevada allow ballots to be received after Election Day. This all but guarantees that on Election Day, Americans will not know the election results possibly for days and weeks. What does all this mean? In a close finish for President, Donald Trump or Joe Biden may not concede the results for a long time. Their lawyers will no doubt get involved doing recounts, looking for lost ballots, and finding voter fraud. Things could go all the way to the Supreme Court. If neither candidate has enough electoral votes to win, it could be the House of Representatives to determine the outcome. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said in September 2020 that there's a heightened risk of civil unrest in the period between voting and a result being called. Facebook will try to label posts from candidates claiming victory before all the votes are counted. Zuckerberg said other media outlets should inform voters that there's nothing illegitimate about the election taking additional days or even weeks to make sure all the votes are counted. Eventually, the presidential race will be decided, but this may be an election unlike anything we've ever seen. Buckle up. This is H.A. Graves.